Are you going to be able to survive this tax hike? What do you think about the budget? Are you stressed? Well, guess what, guys? We're here to alleviate it, give you some things to worry about, and give you some solutions to the problem as well. You're welcome back to the Insider Outsider podcast with your host, Rav, and your second host, Mr. Forbes 20, top 20 out of 20. Nice to meet you, my friend. You have
Welcome
no.
back, guys.
What happened to all your guns?
Well, due to some logical reasoning with the YouTube algorithm, I think we should get rid of them.
No, not a very smart man indeed. So, guys, we're gonna go over today a lot of something that's going to be very apparent in tomorrow is the federal budget is finally going to be released. Now, I'm gonna give you a heads up on what to expect. We're gonna give you our opinion on it, and we're gonna tell you what exactly is gonna happen. All right. Now we are the insider outsider, so we've already seen this tax budget, but this is what's gonna happen. So, firstly, it's really well that you should know that this tax budget is over 3 months overdue. It was supposed to come in July of this year, and obviously the Carney government has not posted it just yet. And why could you think this would be the reason, Mr. Ahmed?
well, we're looking when you come to the Insider Outsider podcast, we always like to consider all kinds of correlations and reasoning as to
Mm-hmm.
why this should happen. And I think something to bring up is the positioning of Donald Trump in retrospect to how Carney's had to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a reflection of the process that Carney has to go through before, putting these out there. I think that from what we've seen, and Rob, you could talk more on this too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're doing cuts on certain areas, and they're not doing cuts on certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify, they're not cutting on the defense,
They
which is a clear indication.
nobody knows this, but it's very confident to assume that they will not be cutting on this on military budgets. Now, I like how you brought this up. So I think a lot of people don't underestimate the that I do think the budget was going to be delayed anyway because the government's going to have a lot of changes. So one way to know if something's going to be off budget is if they're not reporting on the budget just yet. It's very easy to assume that something ain't looking right. The second thing is obviously with the Trump tariffs that has affected so many of our industries here in Canada, that is just adding a whole new problem towards it. So Mark Carney is put into this difficult situation where he has to now not just get everything ready for the budget that's supposed to happen, but how do you follow through, knowing that you may need to pay off many hundreds and thousands of people who rely on these jobs that obviously Trump is trying to take back to the USA. And so I'll give you my clear indication on what's I believe is going to become the outcome of this. Firstly, I believe you're going to have a lot of budget decreases in a lot of areas, and that is going to include the federal government. If you were unaware, in Canada, the federal government is the biggest employer of people. So they're the biggest business that employs people. Now that is a big problem because I don't know if you've ever tried to call the CRA. It's very difficult. Whether it's business taxes make it a lot easier, I'll be honest with you. But even with personal taxes, incredibly difficult. There are many reports coming out that the people who are working there are incompetent in not saying that they're stupid, but just saying that they are not even sure what they know and they may not even be given the right information. So there's going to be a lot of cuts towards this because the only way to pay off debt that is looming is by cutting deficit spending. And one thing I want people to understand is this: the economy for the last 10 years has grown incredible in the amount of debt. I can give you the exact number, but you wouldn't believe me. But the economy growth has not grown at all since 2015, which means everybody loved 2015, right? 2015 was amazing before COVID, right? Canada decided to stay that way. They decided never to change. But jokes aside, you cannot rely on 2015 economy to run the economy of 2026. It's not going to work that way. So the only way so just imagine this. Imagine you got no new assets, Ahmed. You got no assets. You got no pay increases. Nothing happened to you except the amount of debt that you had has tripled, quadrupled. What would you think to that? Like, oh shit, like something's wrong. And the only way to fight this, I believe that the Liberal government at this moment in time will be doing a lot of spending cuts. And I think a lot of people will be unhappy with this. But usually the hardest decision, what you have to do at the moment, is going to be the right decision. So I would like to see a lot of cuts in this going. Now, obviously, it's very difficult to choose where the cuts come from, right? Because if you're cutting something, that means somebody somewhere is getting something less. You can try to make the government efficient, meaning you can try to limit the amount of money you're sending to different organizations, try to see where waste and fraud is, as such as Doge efficiency they're trying to do in the USA. And I believe Mark Carney will be doing some portion of this as well. Obviously that sucks because that means a lot of people might lose jobs. Now, But then the question becomes, what's the opportunity here? I do believe that the Canadian government will now increase the amount of spending in the USA military. Sorry, not the USA military, in military spending. I will give you my reason. I have seen no indication that Mark Carney is looking to spend less in the military. He's actually agreed to the UN to increase the budget for military spending. He's been doing this for many months at this point. His recent trip to South Korea, he's now trying to make nuclear subs. Right? He's trying to have 4 nuclear subs by 2030, which is a lot of money. I also don't know if you know, but there's this little project called the Golden Dome, which Mark Carney has accepted from the USA, which would cost roughly what they were saying, $60 billion, I believe, something like that. So, where's all that money coming from? That money is going to directly come from taxpayers and increases to the budget. And now, one thing I will say is, in a lot of economies, and Ahmed knows this very well because he knows a lot of facts about World War II. You know, the guy's very addicted to war, but there's a lot of expenditure on military spending on times that are rough. And usually you can see a correlation there. But now, usually that does have good aspect benefits towards the regular civilization population as well, because increased government spending in military usually does create great innovation, from what I've seen in my research. What do you think about that one, Ahmed?
I think those are correlated 100%. And I want to bring up several different authors that I think are applicable to our
Let's
conversation.
hear it.
What you just mentioned, I think Ray Dalio kind of covers it,
Hmm.
where innovation is actually part of the pre-war. One of the things that the reserve currency holder does,
Mm-hmm.
the superpower, is in order for it not to get replaced, it needs to be the hub of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be the front runner of anything that's innovative, whether it's the printing press or something that's going to substantially affect the economic success of a superpower. Definitely within the context of what you just provided, it's very
Mm-hmm.
relevant. And not just from my biased opinion, but Ray Dalio's.
Uh-huh.
Ray Dalio talks, and I've watched another author here, Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you guys are familiar with his book,
One of the most famous books for
um,
financial literacy, yes.
he is 100% in line with our thesis, and I really like this idea of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is that you need to find someone within a narrative or a specialization that has a nuanced opinion, and then try and break it apart, understand it for yourself, and if you align with it, you actually have more of a convincing thesis.
Uh-huh.
And so what he said on a recent podcast that I've watched, is that diversifying within gold, silver, and property is the best way to protect yourself. Obviously, our theses are uh, uh, similar in a lot of ways,
Drones,
but
real
we're
estate,
kind of
energy.
we yeah, exactly we align in the same idea, in the sense that he said that this is all to prepare for a war-like scenario.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean,
And so
Trump was just like literally like a week ago announced that he will resume military testing of nuclear warheads, and they're increasing their spend in the military as well, right?
see, you're reinforcing the narrative that we've spoke about earlier. Carney is actually just pivoting to what Trump is doing. He's reacting, and that's definitely part of the. It's going to reflect in how he makes decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've seen this budget is directly affecting government jobs, but they're not going to reduce the money on defense.
Uh-huh.
Within our core basis, within our core thesis is that war will always happen, and it's almost like looking at things from order and chaos perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There are implications that benefit, within the context of order. He's actually Carney's actually aligning with that. Let me explain further, because I'm kind of vague with what I just suggested. He's His outlook is that we need to uh, spend internally on infrastructure to create these economic circumstances for Canada to thrive. And he's also changing the trade partners that he has. He is shifting his focus from American-based trade negotiations and trying to create trade negotiations, for example, like with South Korea,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yes, they're also
Yeah,
trying
you,
to buy
you just
military
mentioned it.
equipment from South Korea as well. So maybe he's trying to reduce the reliance on USA military, and he's trying to get that shifted somewhere else.
Exactly. But the military spending will always be a priority, especially during tough economic times. Just, societies go ebb and flow, and I love Ray Dalio's interpretation. And I really need to bring in some of his ideas. Um, he talks about this ebb and flow between empires, and there's certain times that the empire's about to collapse. You know, Rome, for example.
Uh-huh.
Everyone loves online. Everyone loves talking about the great Roman Empire. And one of the things that I learned through reading Ray Dalio's book, is that you have to create a facade for the people when society is about to fall apart. You have to give them bread, the gladiator show,
Mm.
bread and wine. Do you remember? I'm not sure what the exact statement is. Maybe I'm
You
misquoting this,
try
but
to keep chill heads, even though you know that your economy is failing.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think Trump is turning on and off these tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
He does not want to have a huge shock to the system where everyone goes on a banker's run.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, banker's run is when the weakness within reserve lending is basically expressed fully. What I mean by that is reserve lending. Rav, would you like to explain reserve lending? I feel like you might
Well,
have a better
are you
understanding.
just talking about like how banks are able to borrow? Let's just say they're able to, if they get a dollar, they're able to rent out or give out a certain amount of money to make money. Yeah, fractional reserve banking. So
Fractional reserve,
reserve banking,
exactly.
exactly,
Yes,
yeah. And so I got a lot of the USA economy relies on that, right? And so like Ahmed, great points just right over
the
here,
reason
right?
the reason I feel like I
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to
yeah.
tie this
Continue,
up more.
continue, continue.
Reason I'm mentioning this is because it's in line with this budgeting kind of thing. So you have a coordination between government and infrastructural
Mm-hmm,
institutions, right?
mm-hmm,
They all tie in together.
mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that was mentioned in the news maybe 2 days ago and it was kind of suppressed. There was an emergency $50 billion the liquidity. The government had to give liquidity to these banks in a state of emergency. So Trump, what I'm trying to put the narrative is much like Rome is going through a state where they have to put people into a facade about the actual integrity of their governments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Trump is trying to hide the cracks, but the if you can read what they're doing in the context of militarization and how they're spending in context of the military,
Mm-hmm.
you could deduce a better logical, thesis on what they're actually about to go into. And I think they're about to go into war.
So yeah, but let's say, regardless if we want to speculate on war, whether they have war or not, I think what people don't understand about military spending is
Yes.
military spending doesn't go down during economic rough times or economic great times, and you'll
Yeah.
actually see military spending increase during economic hard times because the thing that people don't understand is the when mutual warfare is inevitable, right? What that means is there's always a chance that war can happen. People don't be like, oh yeah, we're great. We should just lower the amount of spending we do. They don't really do that. I don't think I've ever seen it in history where people have lowered the amount of money that they're spending on their military. It's very difficult to do so, and it's very difficult to get justify that as well. And so in Canada's case, however, we have not been spending nearly as much money that we need to be spending on military or on infrastructure. So I think in this bill, of course, as I think there's going to be a tremendous increase in military spending, while there are going to be a lot of cuts to several other places, I think infrastructure building will also grow incredibly as well. Did you were aware of the blanket rezoning that happened in Calgary? Were you aware of this? It happened about a year
No.
ago. So pretty much what
What is
happened
that?
was, just roughly going to go over it, is pretty much the Congress here in Calgary had voted in favor of just blanket rezoning, which means places that had single family lots, they're called RC1s or RC2s, they got rezoned into RCG, making people be able to build a fourplex or an eightplex in some circumstances on a detached property. Now, a lot of people were anti against this, but this is what Calgary did to fight its affordable housing crisis. And I actually think they've done relatively pretty well in Calgary, just in particular, for creating great properties and creating more value for people who are living here. Now, obviously, Calgary is still very, very profitable profitable in the sense of that's doing pretty solid because we're an oil and gas giant here, and the only sector, as we know in Canada, we talked about it in our last episode, that's doing relatively well is still energy, and so what I think Mark Carney is going to be trying to do is he's going to be trying to do a lot of blanket rezoning all across Canada to make it easier for people to cut redlining. Right now, of course, I'm not here to bash Mark Carney or again to tell how great it is. And like I told you, I'm trying to see what the 5 year plan is and the 10 year plan is, and there's no reason for me to hate on the current government or love the current government. I just want to see results, and so. Also, during times of hardship, infrastructure building gets ramped up because one thing that people don't I don't know if you've ever noticed, Has construction ever gone away? It does not. Construction either stays the same or it grows, and especially during hardships, when I've seen this from books I've read, from just different illustrations of history. During economic hardships, the best way to get your economy to back up is by increasing the amount of building you're doing. Just because you're increasing your build, you'll provide a lot more jobs and a lot more liquidity towards your fellow nation. And I think that's what's going to be happening in this market. So, although I said there's going to be two things, the military thing, I'm 100%, like I'm willing to bet my life fortune on it, that it will go up on this budget. In terms of infrastructure building like homes, that will also go up. Now, again, all this stuff you've heard from Mark Carney already said. It's just the idea is this going to be actually manageable? Is somebody going to actually be able to do this or they're not? Because one thing I want people to understand is you can talk great about 3D houses or about small modular houses, like houses that are very tiny.
Modular homes, yeah,
Yeah,
modular homes.
but who actually wants to live there is the question. That is the question I have for you. Who actually does want to live there?
Well,
Because I can guarantee you,
I'll tell you something
yeah.
within that question that you provided,
Hmm.
but then we'll carry on with what you were saying. And I think that what you were putting forth to the viewer is very important. Because of the immigration policy from India, home ownership has actually increased to basically the people that existed within Canada
Hmm.
don't accept these lower standards of living,
Hmm.
but the different, these people that come in from different economic predispositions,
Uh-huh.
they're more likely to settle down for a living.
Of course, we
30,
see
30
that in
people in
terms of
one.
basements, right? Like we see when
That reflects
yeah,
on the data, the home ownership data,
yes,
and so they actually own 51%
uh-huh.
of the Canadian real estate. And I think that's data that you guys should look into.
Yeah.
But
Well,
carry on with the
we've seen it in Toronto, right? Like for example, apartments. You go from 1,000 square foot apartment, and now they're building apartments at 200, 300 square feet, one bedroom, and these are costing $500,000, right? And you've seen what's happened to Toronto. As soon as a crack happened in their foundation, because they were over reliant on the steel sector, you saw the cracks in foundation of the real estate, right? And so as soon as they took out foreign buyers, real estate has continued to have a massive fall since 2022. And this is a great opportunity for buying for somebody in Canada who already has money. The problem is a lot of Canadians don't have the savings. They still don't have the ability to afford these houses because they're still very expensive. But it still goes to show you when people were purchasing these properties were purchased as rentals. So if you're buying the single family condo with one bedroom and no living room pretty much, you're only buying it as a rental. You're not buying it there to live in. So if you create modular housing, which is very similar to this, even if it's a little bit bigger, who are you attracting? You might be attracting investors to buy these properties to rent them out, right? But again, it goes towards, I believe that, when people talk about the Canadian home dream ownership, they are not referring to condos. They're referring to a single detached house where you have your own lawn and information like this, right? And the thing is, in Canada, we have no shortage of land. We just have a shortage of, we just have a huge abundance of red tape to create anything on this land, right? It is substantially harder here to get permits to be able to do what you would like to do instead of the USA where permits come with ease. And remember, although like it's so much easier in the USA already to do this, they're making it even easier, right? And I do believe that hopefully this budget addresses some of this information. Now, the two concerns I have with the budget are this. I don't like uncertainty. I like to make sure I'm very certain on on the reasons why I have ideas. But what do you think the idea of a snap election is once McCartney releases his budget tomorrow? Do you think, for example, if the budget has tremendous cuts, a lot of people who consider themselves liberals right now or who rely on government assistance will try to look for a secondary option like an NDP or even conservative. Conservative also obviously announced their plans to cut budgets as well, but the liberals were not known for that. So what do you think is going to happen for in terms of that? Because the re-election I believe is in 2029, but you can truthfully here in Canada you can do an election anytime you want as long as enough people agree to it.
It's kind of interesting from what I see. A lot of Canadians rely upon government jobs,
Uh-huh.
and so these cuts directly apply to them. Within the first
Hey,
year, there's
Ahmed,
going
I
to
just
be
want to
about
make a
seven
fun
point.
point. I just want to make a funny point to that. Do you remember? I don't know if your parents ever said it, but a lot of time, if you ask yourself 10 years ago, a lot of people kept saying, "Get a government job." They're for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And now it's not looking very certain. I actually had a buddy who goes to Gold's Gym, which is the gym that me and Ahmed go to, and he actually worked for the government. He actually got his first layoff. So there's already been a lot of layoffs, which again. And he's been telling me how much they were laying off. They're like every single day they're going in, people are getting laid off, and you just don't hear about these stats at the moment because again, nobody's releasing the data until very soon.
What I really am emphasizing is what Rav, what you brought up with the snap election. Um, what I think is that because of so many Canadians relying upon these government jobs, I think this should be taken into account as Carney is reducing the budget on spending on them and
Mm,
maintaining their jobs.
mm,
They may reflect this, in a close circle. They're going to have an impact on who they vote for, and I don't think who they vote for will actually have a substantial effect.
uh-huh,
I think that the U.S.'s economic implications are going to imply on whether it's Carney or somebody else.
uh-huh.
And I definitely see that the first year they're going to take 7.5% away, and then they're going to fill it up until 15% within the coming years. That's from what the budget suggests.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think
Yeah, I think they said something in
the
Canada that 50,000 government jobs were at risk of getting lost or something like that, and that's quite a bit, right?
that's going to reflect on
Yeah, but
that's going to reflect on voting,
I
correct?
don't
Yeah,
want people to think that this budget might look smaller than the last budget. It's actually probably going to look more, but it's just the spending goes from this portion, and it's going to be underspending in certain categories. So me and Ahmed here are not to speculate whether the budget's going to
exactly.
say that we're going to spend 4 billion instead of 5 billion. I'm just making imaginary numbers right now. I think the government's going to speculate on, oh, maybe it's $7 billion, a lot more, but because we're putting into these infrastructure, and then we're going to lower down social security, or like again, you never know what they're going to lower down, right? They even might lower down some health benefits and information like that. So I think we've got 20 minutes on this government side of things, and so I'm going to tell you guys one certain point that, and again, apologies, I'm very sick. I'm just trying my best to get this podcast out because we care about this information so much. Uh, it doesn't matter what the hell happens because it ain't going to change your life. Because if you yourself are not getting ready to put
Exactly.
yourself in the best predicament, it doesn't matter what the budget does. Nobody should be trying to be reliant on the government over the long term. You need to be self reliant on yourself because the only way you can guarantee yourself of never being affected or caring about what the government does is if you have full self reliance on yourself. And so, guys, if you have a government job, start to look for more skills. Try to see different opportunities. Even I was taking a look at information like this. Jobs in Canada are substantially lower pay. My apologies. Than similar jobs in the USA, and so understand that. I'm not saying go to the USA for your jobs, but what I'm saying is try to find secondary positions, to learn long-lasting skills, learn a second language, learn stuff, and have abilities to make yourself indispensable in your current position. Or if you know that you're indispensable, try to make it that you have the most amount of knowledge forward in order to get the best position next, right? Because one benefit that we have here in Canada is we still have EI, so we have unemployment insurance. So if somebody loses their job, if anybody loses their job and it's not because of fraud-related reasons or them stealing, they will be entitled to severance, and usually severance is every 12 months you have 1 month of severance, and you'll have EI benefits. And so obviously EI, the way it runs is just a quick run through is 1 week you will not get paid, and then you'll be able to start getting EI benefits. But making the case for EI is still a difficult situation. But what I'm trying to say is you don't need to think that everything is going under the floor, especially if you get into a layoff. But you need to develop skills, because if you don't, you're in the mercy of whatever the government wants to do for you.
I think what Rav is saying is very relevant, and I've seen many of my buddies, educated ones, within a bunch of engineers, particularly from my biased experience, right? They all move to California or they leave the country,
Yeah,
which
because
is sad to see. Are people that should be benefiting, much like the uranium's leaving, like we mentioned in the older
man,
podcasts.
Canada is the
Um,
number one producer of uranium, yet we have no nuclear power plants ourselves. Ours are compared to the USA or anywhere else in the world. How does it make sense?
it bothers both of us, and we definitely show this on the podcast.
Mm.
And I think that being an informed person and watching our podcast is going to work in your best interest. Um, I think what Rav is saying is develop a bunch of skills that can give you not on on a Canadian level, but on an individual level.
Mhm.
Like on an individual level, you want to be ideally someone who falls into the globalist category. What do I mean by that? You can operate cross borders. You have inherent value within your what you know, or languages. You have a value proposition that will allow you this thing called social mobility. Social mobility allows you to jump from middle class, the higher class, or the poor, the higher class. And what that allows you to do is enter this frame of globalists. Um, and I think that this notion should be very, very, this idea should be focused in on, because I'm actually a little bit skeptical about the actual what is actually presented to the public. I am I'm what I'm trying to say here is there's this thing called a Freudian slip,
Mm-hmm.
where someone actually says something by accident, a slip of the tongue, and they reveal they reveal to you a lot of the things that they're actually working, the stuff that they're actually thinking about, not what they're presenting to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I genuinely think that we need to look at a video of Canada's First Lady when Carney got into his position as Prime Minister. She said that let's make Canada poor.
What?
She
I
said,
have
let's
no
make
idea what you're
Canada
talking
poor.
about. But I'm very curious to know what you're talking about.
I should send you the link. Maybe
Yeah, yes,
we'll
please.
revisit this
I'm
video.
very curious on what you're saying. Okay, so why did she say that? What context was this in? So Mark Carney's wife, the
I
first
just
lady of Canada right now,
Yeah,
she said we should
yeah.
make Canada poor. Why is that?
Okay, so we have to enter this conversation and prove the statement that she actually intends on. The Freudian slip is valid
Mhm.
in the sense that
And we only have 4 minutes,
she
okay?
actually
So be
actually
careful that we
yes.
don't go over.
I'm gonna be very very quick with what I'm gonna
Hmm.
suggest. But I'm gonna give it a very solid empiricism.
Hmm.
Now, within the context of game theory,
Hmm.
the first thing that you do is you stop working as an individual. You work with other people, and that gets you to win, halfway. And the next level is actually co-conspirating with another team.
Hmm.
So within the game theory idea is you're actually not telling the team that you're with, you're actually working with another team. What do I mean by that? So let's give labels to everything. Within the political scheme of Canada and America and the entire, the globalized world we live in today, people that are globalists are constantly co-conspirating when it comes to taxation, when it comes to enforcing laws and so on. So because this is time sensitive and there's 4 minutes remaining, I genuinely think that there's an agenda beyond the Canadians' best interest. And I've expressed this several times because things like the uranium problem, America always takes all the smart people from every other country. What I genuinely think is this is part of a playbook.
Hmm.
Every time a war happens, there is this context of opposition between two countries. And the financial statements and the logic behind who's getting money is never thought about. But if you observe the world wars and if you observe history and understand it and try and simulate it in today's context, you'll find that it's not exact, it doesn't repeat, it rhymes.
Hmm.
And I genuinely believe this, and we need to watch this video because I think the viewer would find this astonishing.
You know, again, great topic for the next video. I think I want to spend the last 2 minutes talking about actually benefits of having this podcast and benefits. So, as you probably heard, me and Ahmed said we want to
This
try to
this
keep.
is within this is within our best interest to show. I'm pretty sure this will find interesting. What I think is Carney does not give a shit
Okay, let's continue. Let's continue.
about
Okay, market
the Carney
doesn't care
doesn't
about
care
what.
about the middle and poor class,
Hmm.
and they're gonna push us into this war scenario. And who's gonna get money? The bankers are, and Trump is, and Trump's kids are, and it's not gonna be the average viewer.
Uh-huh.
So I really think that we should push this. Although you might want to shift the topic and gears, I really think that the viewer would value seeing
No,
this.
no, say
And
what you feel in your mind. Again, we have 2 minutes, so
they, I'm I'm gonna I'm gonna send you the video. You could talk about that last concept so that you get to that last
oh,
2 minutes.
oh
But
no, no, no.
I
I was
really
just I was going
need
to talk
to
about benefits of having this channel. You know, we're trying to make our content easier to digest. We're trying to get under 30 minutes, so we make it easier for people to view it because we know an hour is a lot to ask if somebody should stay watched for two people with ADHD just yelling at each other. And then, but again, we really, really appreciate all the help. We're almost at 100 subscribers, guys, and some of the videos are doing 40. I have no idea where Ahmed went. Okay, never mind, he's back. So sometimes some of our videos got 40
I
views,
sent you
some got
I
60.
sent you that link.
Yeah, some of them got 10. But again, we appreciate anybody who tunes in to listen to anything we have to say because again, the reason why we have this is we are just trying to show what our perspective is
Yeah,
on content like this. And truthfully, the only main thing is we want Canadians, we want people in the USA, we want people anywhere in the world to succeed. And so Obviously, us talking about Canada here because it's the most relatable topic to us doesn't necessarily mean that all the things that we're saying, all the benefits we're saying, or all the ideas we're saying doesn't reflect for the rest of the world. We have a lot of reasons to, be crying in this economy. But man, I promise you, there are just so many reasons to succeed. And usually during hard times, that's when you have the most opportunity to create great success. So if you see some businesses failing near you, you might have an opportunity to go in to have your assistance, have your special needs, uh, of your special powers, your special knowledge, whatever you have, and help this business grow. Or again, create your own business, right? As businesses leave Canada, there's a lot of room left to open businesses. So regardless if you don't open a business, creating great skills will always get you to the top, to the position you want to be. And there is never a time in history where knowing more by having better skills has not gotten you better results. That's just the last thing I want to put.
100%. And I think that Rav is pushing this narrative that you need to be more aware of what actions that you can take to
Mm-hmm.
serve your best
Mm-hmm.
interest.
It ain't the government's
And
issue. That's your issue. It's on to you.
when that best interest starts to diverge between you and what the government intends for you, you need to take more initiative.
Mm-hmm. That's a
What I mean
very
by that
great
is
point.
when
I
the
really,
government,
I really appreciate you saying that. Was a very great line.
what I'm really saying is pay attention. I've just shared a video to Rav, and hope you could pop that up on the screen and show the viewer of what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to refer
Well,
to with
we'll start it for the next time. I think I received it, but yeah, we'll start for
tennis.
next.
All right, man. Just to wrap it up, she said that um, let's make Canada poor again. I think that was a Freudian slip. And within the
It's
conversations that
on
happen
video.
behind the
It's
scenes,
on video.
it's on video.
All
Yeah,
right, okay. I
it's
can't wait to watch this. We'll have it at the start of the next video. That's a great way. That's a great thumbnail.
I think one of the books that predisposes me to this kind of opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason I have these views, is this very, very empirically based book that before we leave, you should definitely look at this. It's called One Nation Under Blackmail.
The One Nation to Black. Okay.
Yeah, it's. I think the viewer should look into
All
this
right,
book and
guys.
understand because
Well.
it has the same notions as the
Mm-hmm.
thesis I just.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll cut it off here, guys. Make sure that this book, I'll look into that book. It seems like a very good book. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow for the announcement of the budget. We will see what we completely got wrong. We'll see what we completely got right, and we'll see how much of an insiders we truly are. All right, have a great rest of
This
your
is
day, guys.
the Outsider Podcast. Please
Have
subscribe. Thank you for watching.
have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye bye.